Paganism's beliefs and rites have existed for thousands of years, and have emerged in different forms in many civilizations. Similar beliefs and understandings have existed in different geographies as a result of both the interactions experienced and the efforts of people to understand nature, birth, death, the sky, planets, and stars. One of the examples of this is the cult of Dionysus, which has many parallels to Jesus. Dionysus is the god of wine and bread. In the eyes of the ancient Greeks, it was the sum of invisible forces that gave life to all kinds of plants and made them grow. Therefore, in the eyes of the ancient people, where grapes and wine were important, one of their symbols was the vine. In addition, the bull, snake, tiger, and leopard are among its symbols. One of its accepted symbols is the fig fruit. He is often depicted riding a leopard, wearing leopard skin, or riding in a chariot pulled by panthers. One of the most important symbols that defines him is the thyasus he holds in his hand, that is, the staff with a pine cone at the end and decorated with vine branches. The pine cone at the tip of the staff suggests that it may be linked to an Anatolian goddess, Cybele. In addition to the epithet giver of wine, he had adjectives such as master, god, and he of the trees. Another and most important title was Savior, just like Jesus. Since paganism could differ in practice between societies, some were prominent with bloody animal sacrifices applied wildly and others with meditation-like methods. Unlike today, for a long time in the past, these forms of worship were not despised. Even they sanctioned by the state. That's why worship, with minor exceptions, was not done in secret, and people were not blamed. Pagan peoples, who were afraid of persecution with the coming to power of oppressive leaders with different religious views, tried to keep their worship and rituals on a smaller scale and to keep them secret. Although the location and language changed, the myth of a dying and resurrected god or man was at the center of belief. Just like Dionysus. According to the belief, Dionysus, with the Roman name Bacchus, was subjected to a violent death just like other vegetation gods and was resurrected. In the rites of the god, which are associated with wine and fertility, his suffering, death, and resurrection were portrayed. At its core, its rites are concerned with vine cultivation and its life cycle. Just like nature, the vineyard gardens, which are a part of it, are embodied as a living god, and the fermentation of wine has been associated with the essence of the god who went down to the underground. His cult, that is, the worship of people for him, dates back so far that it goes back to the Mycenaeans. Phallicism, that is, ceremonies sanctifying sexuality and genitals, were held at the Dionysia and Lenaea festivals in Athens. Eleusis, also known as Elefsina, was a region in Greece west of Athens. Celebrations were held here at Temple of Elefsina in honor of the mother goddess and godman Dionysus for about 1,100 years. But the temples here were destroyed in 396 AD by the Visigoth king Alaric I, aided by a group of Christian monks. Every god, his worshippers, and ancient religions have periods of rise and fall. At the height of the Dionysus celebrations in Eleusis, everyone flocked to the temple, regardless of man or woman, rich or poor, slave or emperor, eager to experience spiritual development or to learn secret teachings. Many Roman nobles and emperors took part in the celebrations, including Sulla, Mark Antony, Cicero, Augustus, Claudius, Domitian, Hadrian, and Marcus Aurelius. Cicero had said, "For among the many excellent and indeed divine institutions which your Athens has brought forth and contributed to human life, none, in my opinion, is better than those mysteries. For by their means we have been brought out of our barbarous and savage mode of life and educated and refined to a state of civilization, and as the rites are called initiations, so in very truth we have learned from them the beginnings of life, and have gained the power not only to live happily, but also to die with a better hope." The fame of the celebrations was so widespread that even Zamaros, a Brahmin priest living in India, went to Eleusis, And when the great flame that burned when the temple opened appeared, he walked into the flames and mesmerized the audience. Pilgrimage or fasting are not unique to Abrahamic religions. While these religions did not exist, many polytheistic communities made pilgrimages and fasted, and each ascribed different meanings to them. For example, about 30,000 Greek citizens used to make pilgrimages to Elefsis, which is located on the coast as far as 30 kilometers away. Perphos was to celebrate the name of Dionysus. Greek pilgrims who reached the region after completing their pilgrimage offered sacrifices for Dionysus, performed purification rituals, and fasted. Those who wanted to access the hidden secrets of the Greek pagan religion were dancing along the sacred path leading to this region to the sounds of bells and tambourines, being harassed by masked men who mistreated them, and sometimes even hit with sticks. In other words, the pain experienced by the god was tried to be experienced through asceticism. At the head of this pilgrimage, which took place on the Sacred Way, were the officials carrying the statue of Dionysus. Therefore, the journey took place with the guidance of God. The water used for cleaning has, throughout history, often been seen as a purifier. This belief forms the basis of the belief in baptism. Here, at the Elefsina, the people who completed the pilgrimage to the mother goddess and Dionysus would bathe naked in the sea and perform purification ceremonies. Then, eager to learn the hidden secrets, they would come to the large doors of Telesterion, one of the central and sacred areas of the Elefsis mysteries, with a capacity of 3,000 people. Not every pilgrim had the right to enter. The people who would enter had to be either chosen or people who had been here before and were familiar with the teachings. So why was it so important to get in? What was being done in this ceremony that excited even important state names? Everyone who entered the temple should make a sacred oath to keep what they saw and learned a secret. Pilgrims attended an impressive theatrical ceremony in the temple. Hierophant, the high priest of the ceremony, the protector and interpreter of the sacred mysteries, and the person who brings people to the presence of the sacred things, dramatically enacted the story of Dionysus by dressing as Dionysus. Samuel Angus, professor of New Testament and church history, said, "The whole ritual of the mysteries aimed especially at quickening the emotional life. No means of exciting the emotions was neglected in the Passion Play, either by way of inducing careful predispositions or of supplying external stimulus. Tense mental anticipation, heightened by a period of abstinence, hushed silences, imposing processions and elaborated pageantry, music loud and violent or soft and enthralling, delirious dances, the drinking of spirituous liquors, physical macerations, alternations of dense darkness and dazzling light, the sight of gorgeous ceremonial vestments, the handling of holy emblems, autosuggestion and the promptings of the Hierophant, these and many other secrets of emotional exaltation were in vogue." Many researchers and scientists say that the dramatization of the Dionysus myth is the origin of the theater. What made the Dionysian ceremony different from the theater was that the audience was not passive. While a person attending the theater was only watching the play, people who were entitled to participate in the Dionysus ceremony had to share in his ordeal and share his passion to represent the death and rebirth of the human god. As Walter Friedrich Gustav Hermann Otto, one of the contemporary writers who became an authority, said, "Dionysus was the god of the most ecstatic love, but he was also the tormented, suffering, and dying god. Everyone he loved and everyone who served him had to share his tragic fate." The people who shared the pain of Dionysus were not doing this for a theatrical show. Just like the Japharis who were whipping themselves and the priestesses of Atargotis, aka Cybele, who were cutting themselves, worshippers of Dionysus were hurting themselves, and they were experiencing spiritual purification, catharsis. While some of these people were filled with awe, some of them felt as if they were with the gods. When the worship of Dionysus spread to Rome around 200 BC, Dionysus's name became Bacchus. On March 16th and 17th, women were going to the grove on the Aventine Hill, one of the famous 7 hills on which Rome was built, and they were performing celebrations and rituals for Bacchus. The name of this celebration was Bacchanalia. Later, men were allowed to participate, and celebrations began to be held 5 times a month.